Well, it's my pleasure to meet an old friend, a very old friend. And when you start chatting, you realise how many years. Someone who played for Hull Vixens and later on Hull Dockers, I believe. Was it Hull Dockers?
Old
Yeah.
Dockers, East
Yeah,
Hall, yeah.
in East Hull, and played for the Lionesses, was on that very famous tour in 1996 to Australia, and played a bit of county as well in Rugby League, and has got so many memories for it. So I'd like to welcome Lisa Hunter to the Women in Rugby League podcasts.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm really, really good. Thank you, Lisa, for joining us. It's really lovely to catch up with you again. As with all of this, it's been fantastic catching up with people. So tell us a bit about how you got started, where you were born, and just how did you get started playing rugby league?
Well, yeah, I was born in Hull, and we've never really left there. So Hull, born and bred. I'm quite proud of that. Um, Started playing, I suppose, because obviously back in our day, I'm getting old now. Um, so women, the girls didn't have their own sport. They weren't allowed to play with the boys in the school football teams or rugby teams or anything like that. But that's because I was a bit of a tomboy growing up. That's how I got into rugby. I just used to play around with the local kids in the local areas, and at school as well. Playground breaks, any opportunity to play sport in particular, and football and rugby was just part of that. So that's kind of how I started. But initially, I played football. And my dream was always to play for England, but obviously I wasn't good enough. So, but that kind of led me into the rugby. So there was, I think the whole Vixens was already established when I started playing. I think they'd been playing for a while, possibly. I'm sure they played less. They didn't have a full 13 side when it started. I think they played 9 side or even 7
Yeah, they
side.
did. Yeah, the
Yeah,
league was
yeah,
first set up nine aside. Yeah.
yeah. And I can't remember if I joined at 9 side or actually when we actually started it, it might have started at 13. But um, so I kind of went to this taster day. There was a taster day advertised by All Vixens, and it was at near where the Hull Kingston Rovers ground is now, because it wasn't there back in the day. And I just turned up because I used to obviously play football, and really, really enjoyed it. And Anne Thompson was leading that with some of the Vixens players at the time because they needed to recruit. So, and that's kind of I got involved in the kind of stole me from football, really. So that's how it all started for me, and I started playing for all Vixens. So,
Yeah. So what about your early days of playing then? Have you got much memory of your early
oh
days of
yeah,
playing? And
loads. I mean, we certainly want the best team. We was always improving. Anne Thompson though was a fantastic coach, and I think she was a great pioneer for rugby league, especially in Hull. Um, and even within the boys and the men's rugby league in Hull, she's really respected even today. So yeah, I think under Anne, I think she's one of the people I aspired to, and I really respected her, and I still do today. So, but my dad used to come and watch me play with my grandma when we played at Cottingham Hull Vixens, and it was a fantastic ground there. Don't get me wrong. And I think some of it was around the social aspect. I can't lie; it wasn't just all about the rugby. So we used to have some great teams that we played, and we had, it was a good banter. Everybody got on, and it was always a good laugh. And especially with like Wakefield Panthers, it was obviously the best. Nobody could ever beat them. I mean, they was unbeatable for years and years. But yeah, although they had a fantastic team, we always had a good camaraderie with them, and a few other teams as well. So, but no, good memories, and just playing the injuries, you know. Um, they haven't stopped. No matter what sport I play, I'm still get injuries today. So, but yeah, I wouldn't change any of it. I absolutely loved playing rugby.
so how did you get involved then in the Great Britain squad then? What did you have to do to be able to get to get on tour
Yeah.
and be
Um.
selected?
Well, so you initially I didn't think I would be good enough to go for it anyway. But it was my coach again, Anne, and a few others. I think so many of us was put forward for trials. I think, and at that point, I hadn't played. A couple of the players that was playing for Yorkshire, so they automatically went into them trials. But the rest of us had to kind of go to I'm sure we had to go to a trial first before we even got to the next stage. Um, So I went to the initial trials and got selected, and then you did further trials, and there was a lot of them. It was hard work over quite a long period of time. I can't quite remember how long. And we did all sorts of things: drills, fitness, skills, and you had to be scored on every one of them in order to be. And then in the end, depending on your scores, you then got selected. So, and I was lucky enough to get one of the shirts, which I think was number 15. So yeah.
Well,
So,
not
and
lucky enough. You worked
yeah,
hard to get it, didn't you?
I did work hard to get it. Yeah, I always still struggled with the belief that I should never be there because there were so many amazing players. A lot from Wakefield because they was the best team on the circuit at the time, but there was other just amazing players. There was phenomenal in terms of the speed, the build, their skills, and their experience. So I was really lucky. I was a bit in awe really, and I struggled with my confidence. I've always struggled a little bit with that when it comes to sport, not in my work, because I've kind of always been a bit of a natural leader in some respects, but I do struggle a little bit when it comes to kind of taking compliments and having some confidence. So yeah,
But you worked
really,
hard to get in the squad, didn't you? And
yeah, worked really hard.
you've been looking back, haven't you, at all the tests and things that you did, and
yeah, looking in the book and looking at the trials because I didn't realise that they'd documented every single aspect of that first ever tour in 1996. God, that sounds ancient when you look back now. Yeah, and I think it's 25 years, maybe. I can't remember.
yeah, it's 26 years this year.
26 years this year, actually. Yeah. So yeah, it was a real long time ago, but yeah, really hard work. So everybody who got in that squad really deserved a place, I think. And that's the bit that I needed to remember now today. In hindsight, when I look back, I wished I'd reflected on that back then, how I do now, really. But yeah.
Well, you got your place, and you obviously had to do lots of training. So then to go to Australia, was there anything else you had to do in preparation for?
Oh, the fundraising. The fundraising was phenomenal. Again, back in that day, I mean, women's sport generally is what wasn't recognised really, like same as the men's, even at amateur level. So we had to do masses of fundraising, and there was 3 of us from Hull, 2 players, and Nikki was part of like the management team. So and there was myself and Donna Parker. So we had to do so much fundraising. It was unbelievable. We did bagpacking and race nights and sponsored events and some of it was just stupid stuff just to raise even a few quid. Bucket collections. I remember going to Hull FC and Rovers. Sometimes we got quite a few quid, sometimes we didn't get a real lot. But I think between the 3 of us, there was a set amount you all had to raise, but it all just went into a central pot and then that helped to fund. So even if you made more money than you was put, it just went to help other players that might not have been able to get as much as you. But yeah, I remember that, and some of it was, it was good. It was a good laugh, some of that. So, but it was like, say, I don't know if it was a hindrance being 3 of us or a help, but probably a help because there was more of us to spread it.
Yeah.
And family and friends, I must have done them out of the pocket. I think there was I had to take out a loan after I got back from Australia.
So you've done all this fitness, this fundraising, and then you get the call up. What was that like?
Well, it was a letter. You kind of got a letter in the post, and at the time, I've been in Hull City Council, worked for the council nearly 30 years now. So, and I'd been there, I was working for sports development back then. And I remember getting the letter and then taking it into work with me because I didn't dare open it. And there was a few people around and I got them to open the letter and tell me whether I'd got in, and they all started shouting and cheering. So, and again, it was just like that realization that I'd actually got in and started. I didn't even really tell many people at first. But obviously once I did, they was really happy for me. And it was just amazing because you got cards, congratulation cards, and I even got a cake. Somebody made me a cake and all sorts of things. But my dad was just overjoyed, and I'm really glad he got to see me go. So it's just one of the biggest achievements of your life, isn't it? So
yeah, absolutely. And your family, have always supported you in your rugby, haven't they?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like I say, my twin sister. Although my mum never really came to watch me, she always asked how we managed to get on with games, and my wider family. And I've always had a lot of friends around me, so I'm quite lucky, really, in that respect.
Yeah.
No, it was
So
great.
you You went off to Australia then, so tell us a bit more. What are your memories of that tour?
I think a few people have said this. So it was the first time I'd ever been on an aeroplane. Because growing up, we had a family of 5, and my mum and dad was working class. We've come from a working class background, and we didn't always have a lot of money, and so we didn't ever go abroad on holiday or anything like that. And then in my earlier days, just affording to go away. So that was my first experience flying. So not only have you got a long haul flight, but then you've got the smaller flights in between. So that was an experience in itself, and getting on the plane and just that camaraderie and meeting everybody. I remember us all being in the air because we had these really like big tracksuit, like shell suit tracksuit things, and everybody looked your way. So it was quite proud to kind of wear the Great Britain tracksuit and the suits and everything that we got given to us on tour, because that's the one thing they did make sure is that we was fully kitted out. There might not have been perfect fits, I've got to say. I've said to you earlier, didn't I? I remember the shirt just being absolutely massive and the shorts being really little, and to try and tuck them in was quite a task in itself. But yeah, it was good. It was great going to Australia and getting there. We had a couple of days off. We had, we didn't it one, but it was 3 weeks of solid hard training. We did do a lot of training in between, and it was, really warm, different climate, different country. Just amazing to go all that way, really. So, yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. So can you remember pulling on that jersey then when you got your first cap then when you first played for Great Britain?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't play in the test matches, but as part of the squad, obviously, I think we played something. I can't remember how many. I don't know if it was. I can't remember how many games it was within 3 weeks. But in order to give, sort of the first team squad players that would get selected probably a rest, we played in sort of the other games with different clubs and things like that. So some of the top clubs in Australia. I remember going to Sydney, Brisbane, and Canberra. Canberra was freezing cold, when you first got up in the morning. I couldn't believe that. I thought Australia was just warm, but obviously it has different climates. And I do remember going in there winter, and there was a memory. I think it was in Brisbane, and there was a man-made beach, and we're all outside in our bikinis and shorts and everything. And there's the Australian people just walking past in the coats. It was really warm to us, but yeah, that was quite fun. And one of the other days off, we could go to either, I think it was the beach or the zoo, and I chose to go to the zoo with a group. And again, that was an experience in itself. It wasn't great, I've got to admit. I was a bit concerned about some of them animals' enclosures, but I've heard since it's improved, so that's good. And then one of the other funniest memories I've got is so when you went to the training grounds, sometimes we could get to some training grounds, and other times we went to other clubs. And there was a taxi one day for us all, and there was just me and it was Jane Banks, I think, who was probably one of the youngest players. And we got left last to get in this taxi, and we just assumed this taxi driver would know where he was going. And we hadn't paid that much attention. Oh, which training ground are you going to? And we said, don't know. Do you know? Well, which taxi company has picked us up? This guy just didn't have a clue. So me and Jane Banks, we ended up going to about 3 different grounds all over the place. We went over one of the bridges in I think it was Sydney, because we was going to the harbour. And we ended up going over the bridge, and then we hitchhiked back across the bridge because this taxi driver dropped us off. And every ground we went to, no, you're not training here, you're not training here. So me and Jane was panicking at this point, but we do remember that we had to get back to the harbour, Sydney Harbour, because we was having a boat trip. So we managed to get back to this harbour, and we saw them all in the distance, and we was on the wrong side of the harbour, so we had to leg it and run round before we could get on this boat. And it was it wasn't funny at the time. We was really panicking. I don't know how many of the team would remember that, but Jane will probably remember it. Anyway, eventually we met up and got on this, and we went out on this boat trip, and it was all right. We didn't get into trouble because it was the taxi driver's fault. But yeah, that was fantastic.
What memories! What brilliant memories!
Yeah. Some funny, and we had odd nights out when maybe we've had some nights a little bit too much drink, and we did get into trouble for that, I've got to say. But just great in terms of how it was with the team and some of the players. And like I say, when I did play in some of them matches, again, it's that great team spirit around, even though you weren't part of that team, part of the, even though I didn't get an opportunity to play in one of the test matches, I was still part of that squad. And again, I think in hindsight, because when we'd won the final fair test, and I mean, that was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And just helping on, I think every player had a role to play, whether he was running on with the water and giving your players, liquid and water and just generally helping out around the pitch and things like that.
Yeah, everyone had a role, didn't they?
They did, and we had some great spectators, Julia, didn't we?
We did. We did. And a great referee.
A brilliant referee. And I do remember the girl, they came to every match, and how fantastic it was
for them.
They were
from Rochdale, weren't they?
That's right.
Was it Rochdale?
Yeah, and they came to every match, and you could hear them. There weren't loads in the stand, but you could hear them shouting at every match. It was fantastic. So I think one of the other things, we went to Brisbane Broncos one day to their stadium to watch one of the rugby matches. Oh my God, what a show they put on! Just we had a horse running around the pitch. There was fireworks going off. There was also, and it was just a normal match. So I think that, in comparison to the game in England at the time, it just, what a massive difference it was in Australia. God knows what it might be like now. So they've probably got flying horses now, because probably
yeah, it's just a way of life, isn't it? With it being their national sport, it's just. Absolutely. I remember I had similar memories to you. It was like, wow, because they used to have adverts with all the players on and things like that. I remember recording some adverts that the players were on. Saying, look what they do here in Rugby League. They advertise baked beans.
Yeah, it's just mad. And I think the disappointing thing for the team is the lack of publicity. There was certainly some in Australia, a little bit, like an odd bit on the channels. And I think so when we even got back and stepped off there, there was just nothing. So, and you won't get that in a men's game, because there would be all the media there taking pictures and interviewing people and things like that. So that was disappointing, but it's nice to see nowadays how things have progressed, really.
It's lovely, isn't it? It is. And you'd come back, you'd beaten the Australians in a 3-test series. In fact, you only lost one game. I think it was about 6 games.
Yeah.
And you only lost one game, and that was the second test.
I think it might have been 7. I can't remember.
Yeah.
So my memory's not that great. I'm getting on a bit
now.
Oh,
so. I don't know. You're remembering a lot more than I do. Yeah. So that's brilliant.
I do remember. I know some people don't remember this, but we did get given a medal.
Oh, wow.
So this is all we got. So there was no big I don't remember any big trophy. I can't remember if
it was a shield.
A shield. Yeah. So but we did get a medal.
Oh wow, look at that.
So, and it does actually say on the back, I have to put my glasses on though, Great Britain Tour 1996. And I also remember us given a little button badge as well. Yeah. And we all got given a Brisbane Broncos shirt that they never used as well one day. So I've actually still got that. I'll have to dig that one out for you, Julia.
Yeah, because I hadn't seen that medal before until you showed me it today. So I don't know if anyone else has still got them, but
yeah, they must.
Yeah, no, that's definitely one for us to use.
It was a long time ago. They might have forgot about them, Julia. Might have forgot about them. So I think for me as well, I was fortunate that during my days playing rugby, I did know a lot of people from playing football as well. So some of the players and like I say, just the whole experience of women's rugby, it was just fantastic, like Joe Roberts, Lucy Ferguson, some of the Brenda Dorbeck. I mean, Lisa McIntosh, Brenda Dorbeck, they're phenomenal. And Flojo, I don't know, Flojo, her speed was unbelievable. Chantel Patrick, players like that just was so good. So to be sort of in the same company as them, it was a bit of a I couldn't believe it type moment. I didn't feel as I was good enough to be there really. Shelley Land as well and all of them. But even the coaching staff, everybody was brilliant. Ian Harris was just fantastic. Being the only male, I don't know how he did it. Bless him. He must have felt like a lone wolf at times, being there on his own. So with all those women, it must have been an hard task for him. But he was great as well, and I remember him chucking him in the swimming pool at the end. So yeah, it was just when I look back, 'cause I don't really think about it, and not many of my work colleagues, friends know about that I played for Great Britain today, because I don't really mention it, and I don't have any photographs up or anything. But yeah, I think when they all found out, especially once we get our caps, they'll be quite proud.
Yeah, and you should be quite proud, because, as you say, you deserved your place. You worked hard to be in that place, and you played sport for a lot of years and representing your country at the highest level, which you did on tour, didn't you? Because you played in some of the games. So
yeah, and it wasn't until I got back. I remember playing for Yorkshire, but it didn't last long, because I had. When I got back off tour, I had a car accident, and I ended up injuring my back. So I didn't play for a while anyway. So yeah.
So when you sort of look back, what do you think was the most challenging times?
I think getting the recognition of women's, never mind women's sport, but women's rugby league in general. Because obviously, I mean, as we've seen, the football now today is just phenomenal. In terms of the money that's involved, the spectators, getting the biggest ever crowds in the European Cup. So I think the challenge was pushing the fact that women wanted to play against other women. It wasn't about competing with the men, and getting our sports recognised, getting some recognition. I think that was the biggest challenge back in the day. And because I used to work for sports development as well, when I got back, and we used to run specific sessions for girls within schools and things like that. And it was just really difficult to get the schools to kind of allow women's, girls rugby. And the difference nowadays is, I guess, the women that played in that 1996 tour, and the women that was involved in rugby well before that as well. I mean, it was established for a few years first. They're the pioneers, aren't they?
Yeah. And you're one of them.
But there's maybe. But there's definitely, some of them are so still involved today, like Lisa Mark, Brenda Dorbeck, Jane Banks, and coaching, and how they carry on today, and the difference in that sport now. We're still not quite up there with the rugby union, the women's rugby union, but that's the posh side of the southern sport, and we're northern, aren't we? So
yeah.
More hardcore up north. But I think that's going to be a continuing challenge. But it's nice to see that it's televised now. They're starting to get some recognition. They're starting to get sponsorships in particular, and that's about women's sport generally across the whole plateau, really. So it's nice to see, and it's nice to watch on TV. You can choose your channels now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's lovely to see women's sport and women achieving, isn't it?
And I think for you, Julia, being a referee back in the day, you was a pioneer of your own. So, you've got to take that accolade as well in terms of the recognition. So I think everybody does their little bit. We just didn't realise it.
Yeah, no, not at the time. Not when we were all just muckers together.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So when you look at your achievements, what do you think?
Oh, just, I mean, amazing. I don't regret ever playing rugby, despite I have had quite a few injuries, I've got to say. And I think I'm still waiting for another knee operation, actually. But I won't change it. And even now, I've got a passion and a love for the outdoor sports. Maybe not so much. I'm not running around like an headless chicken anymore, and certainly not tackling playing rugby. But I'm still involved in women's walking football. I play rounders, I walk, that, because that love and that passion for sport came from me playing rugby. So it kind of began, and it's not going to end till I literally cannot walk anymore. But yeah, I love the outdoors and just getting out there generally. I just love sport. So yeah. I'll just keep going till I'm in my wheelchair, pushing me up mountains.
You'll be doing wheelchair rugby league and everything else. That won't stop you.
Yeah, no, it's just great. I love it.
Yeah,
so it kind of keeps you going, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so important part of your well-being, isn't it? You'll know from your sports development and what you do now, that it's just so important part of your well-being that you get out there and doing exercise, whatever it may be, whatever it means to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And participation is such a key role in everything, that in terms of engagement, building a relationship. sometimes it's taken for granted a little bit, and that's kind of, I push that in my job even today with, you know, everybody I work for, sort of frontline children and young people services, and you know, participation is just the key, and we try to still do outdoor residentials if we can, and just that general outdoor activities. It's so hard because the money's just not available, but we've just got to keep pushing it because that is just the key to everything. I think it's the foundation, it's the building block of just, you know, getting that relationship really. We've certainly, but sport just plays a big part of that. I think getting involved in a team sport is different to doing an individual sport as well, because you know, the social aspect is something that you won't ever forget, good or bad, you know. And we all have that kind of history as well. We've all got good memories, some not so good. But I think when you look back, they're all great, fantastic, because it's all part of your life experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So this next generation, you just said how great it is to see it on television and what they're doing. So what's your words of wisdom, Lisa, for this next generation?
I think if they can get involved from a young age, get involved in sport or any kind of any type of activity from a young age, you know, it at least gives some sort of health benefits, you know, longevity. And I think just if they've got the passion for it, you know, they could become a great sports person in the future. If they look back at some of the achievements of people over the years, you know, they could be up there. And it don't matter whether you're playing for your local club or playing, you know, for Great Britain. Just sport, just get involved, and the participation of it is just phenomenal, because it gives you so many avenues into different things, I think.
Absolutely. And just you talking has given me sort of like, oh God, how you can inspire the next generation just by your experience and what you've done. And it gives me goosebumps to think, because I know how important sport is in people's life and how important it's been in my life for friendships. So thank you, Lisa. Lisa, it has been an absolute pleasure. I have absolutely loved it, and I've loved I'm loving this project because I'm reconnecting with old friends as well and finding out what they're getting up to. You are an inspiration, and never forget that you are one of the pioneers, because you were on that first tour and you worked hard to be on that tour, and then through your life with all the people you've inspired to do sport that continues today. So thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you, Julie. I've really enjoyed that. Thank you. It made me dig out some of them old memories. So
it did, didn't it?
It's not bad for an older person to kind of remember.
Part of our Alzheimer's club.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, that'll be my next one.
Thanks, Lisa.
No, thank you. Thank you.